Hey guys. Okay, I'm bumbling around with my live shot again, but I thought it was important to show you what's going on down here. So you know this is the courthouse where I enjoy coming the most because I just find them doing things that are so outrageous violations of the law, and especially the constitutionally protected rights under the First Amendment, which is to access the courts. And so this courthouse cost $263 million to build. It was closed much of the pandemic, where they started making rules about attending hearings with remote access. And so that meant that the court was recording cameras in their courtrooms, and everybody was being recorded in the courtrooms, but the public couldn't record in the courtrooms. And so now, yesterday I got a call from some lawyers that the courthouse was closed because the power was out. And this morning we got another call that the courthouse is just simply closed all day. So anybody who had any hearings scheduled here, where they may have had to wait for weeks or months to get their hearing date to determine something important, they just simply are out of luck because the courthouse is closed. See those chains? So all these family court people, Dang and Dow, Pena and Sincero, Santa Clara County PD versus Sham, Confidential, Rulis versus James, Marriage of Gill, Confidential, Marriage of Robles, Marriage of Mahuba, they're all out of luck today because the courts are closed. So they paid their money, they paid their attorneys, and the courthouse is just closed. And they do this over and over again. That one's open, and he gave me this sheet. So you can pay tickets and do different things.
Oh, only for pay tickets?
Yeah, this is the sheet they gave me. So they're just closed today, and this is the sheet they gave me right there. Sorry. So we've watched lots of people coming. Thanks, guys, for coming in live. 67 of you watching. And you are seeing a public courthouse closed for the second day in a row. This is our $263 million courthouse that we built, and they don't have generators, they don't have power. It's a little bit odd that this courthouse would be closed when the courthouses right across the street would be open. And this is not just one day, this is two. And when a courthouse closes, people are not getting in to do their business inside the courts. So yes, where's Waldo? Yes, they will take your money and never provide you the services. So everybody that paid an attorney, that did all their discovery, that paid all their court fees to come down here to have court hearing today and waited months to be heard, they are locked out of court. And I'm going to show you this again. And then we're going to go over and show you the courthouse right across the street that is open. This is the form they gave me before I filmed that. I'm sorry, I recorded that. So I just want to point out that these courthouses do whatever they want. And lately what we've been researching is how they assign cases. And what they do, there are rules about how a court assigns cases. It's supposed to be fair. It's supposed to be transparent so that you can not think that there's rigging involved. By the way, there's one of those street recording cars in case you don't have those in your area. Google and all the other people driving around with cameras on their cars drive up and down these streets. But we're not allowed to use cameras in those courtrooms because the judges don't want it done. So we're going to go out here. You're going to see this on the news because NBC was just out here. But we're going to show you the $263 million courthouse that had business today is just closed. No notice, no warning, just closed. And this is the civil courthouse where people go when they have civil harassment, unlawful detainer cases. The courthouse over there is for drug court, mental health court, and for family court, juvenile cases. And then this is the civil courthouse. And this is the one where you go if you're going to deal with civil harassment and lawful detainers, but more importantly, when you're going to file big lawsuits that are not federal but state, and say you have a grievance with a business partner or somebody in city government, you might come here and this is where your court proceedings would be held. So this court is completely open today. Nothing was continued, no notices. So I'm really interested in how people cannot get into one courthouse and across the street they can get into another one. It's one court facility, same budget. That's the newer courthouse, and yet they just closed down. So thanks everybody for coming out. I did a longer video on this. I just had a lot of calls about this today. And so we came out to show that people can still get into this courthouse, just not the family courthouse that is right across the street. I'm gonna take you back. Oh, by the way, this is also a civil courthouse. And it's actually one of my favorite because it's really a pretty old courthouse. And some of the bigger cases are seen in there. And that's very historic San Jose. So we're in downtown San Jose at the court facility. This is not the criminal court facility. This is just the civil, that's civil, and the family court, which is considered civil. They do mental health, drug traffic, and other cases like that in that courthouse that has now been closed for 2 days. So thanks you guys for coming in, watching, and I appreciate it. For those of you who are wondering, we see a bunch of people over there right now at the door all day long. People have been coming in to go to their hearings, pay their tickets, and they can't get in because of the courthouse being closed. And we don't know why. Before I sign off, I do want to talk a little bit about this case assignment thing. I did write an article about it because I was watching a criminal case recently, and so I had to follow the path of all the rules. But what happens is that when there is a case assigned to the courthouse, it's supposed to be assigned to a judge neutrally, kind of in a random selection process. And then once that case is assigned to the judge is supposed to make all the decisions in that case. And unless they recuse, meaning they pull themselves off the case, unless they recuse, and they are supposed to do so in writing. And if they do so in writing, then the presiding judge, who is the judge manager of the courthouse, they then can reassign the case to another judge. But what we're seeing going on in that family courthouse is that all these family court judges who are hanging out with all these lawyers, and the conflicts of interest abound even more than they do in criminal courts. When a judge recuses from a case or is forced to disqualify from a case, then the judge is reassigning the case to a judge themselves. And when they do that, there's bias in that. It's not random and it has a bad optic, but it also is not following the law. So we're seeing these judges not following the law on case assignments, and that makes case rigging ripe. And case rigging is when you get a judge who's going to throw the case, maybe not even necessarily for a bribe, but they're going to throw the case for a buddy attorney or for a client or for a business that they might hold a financial interest in. And so there are all kinds of guardrails that we put on courts for them to be able to make sure that they're fair. Seeing if we can see anything in here. Nope. And when those guardrails come off, or the dog slips their collar. Come here, Pep. Come here. Hang on, guys. That's what we call live stream technical difficulties. So when judges start making up their own rules and their own procedures, then it makes the whole court process not very fair. And so we've been finding that these judges have been in clubs. One of them we just found is called Inns of Court. And the Inns of Court is a club where judges and lawyers socialize and do different things together: financial, social, personal, and professional. And when they do, hold on, it's slipping the collar, dude. Sorry guys, Puppy's getting a little surly out here, slipping her collar. So we got more news cameras coming out here because the court did a press release. So you'll see a lot of the camera guys come out and for the mainstream news stations to report about why the court's closed, but you guys are already going to know that. And we've just been watching how many people are coming here today that don't have notice because the courts don't communicate with the public the way they should. They get really salty about freelancers and YouTubers and First Amendment cop watchers and First Amendment auditors. And so that information doesn't get out to the public. But back to court case assignments. So these judges, there aren't very many sitting in these departments. And when they're all in clubs, or yesterday we had a judge election, and the judge who was running, Nicole Ford, that you've seen in a lot of my videos, she did not win. So she only got 17% of the vote. 2 prosecutors were running and 1 did get elected to judge. But for the most part, judges are appointed by the governor. In an article that I recently wrote, we found that the governor, Gavin Newsom, had appointed 300 judges while he was governor, whereas we only get to vote for a couple of judges in our county when it becomes available. So we're peeking around. So when a case comes, you file a lawsuit, say you're going to get divorced or you're in a custody case, you file a lawsuit, the court is supposed to neutrally assign that case to a judge. And if the judge has a conflict, they're supposed to recuse. And judges are supposed to recuse based on the lawyers involved in a case, the parties involved in a case, the financial issues, and the witnesses. And if the judges don't do that, then the guardrails come up of our legal system. And we're finding over and over again, these judges are not recusing when they're supposed to recuse. So then when it's pointed out that they have a conflict, the presiding judge is supposed to reassign the case. But if the presiding judge is in those same clubs, then they can't be very fair in doing their job either. So if you didn't know this, a presiding judge is the managing judge of a courthouse, and they actually get paid extra money to be judges, but also to do the business of the court, meaning tell the press when the court's closed, oversee issues administratively about the courthouse, and they get paid money to do that. They're usually not very good at doing that. And we have Beth McGowan here, who I think is the presiding judge, and she's in those clubs with all the lawyers and the judges. She's just one of the cronies. So that is a bad optic, and that makes all of the public trust in the courts a little shaky. And it takes journalists to come and point that out, that they're closing courthouses, that the presiding judge isn't doing her job, that they're not assigning cases the way they should, that they're moving cases around to different courtrooms in violation of the procedures, and that's what we have seen a lot of lately. So I'm going to sign off because my battery's going low. I appreciate all of you letting me rant about case assignments and closed courthouses, because under the First Amendment, one of the most fundamental rights that we all have is the right to access our courts and court proceedings, and we're entitled to fair hearings and due process of law, which means we all have to follow the same rules, and courthouses should not just be randomly closed in the middle of the day for all the people who deserve to access those courts and waited a long time to do so. So thanks, guys. I'll do more on this later. We're glad Nicole Ford didn't become a judge. Bad lawyers should never become judges, but if they do, we're going to be watching them. Thanks.